Now I'm back. I couldn't leave y'all hanging, so we definitely need to talk about Interview with a Vampire Season 1, Episode 2, After the Phantoms of Your Former Self. But guys, just know the lives will be back. Appreciate your patience.
Only apply that. Get it, don't be timid when you in it, apply that. Love a bone, give along, need it. I don't want no trip, baby, say like
My name is Ashley, and this is My Sweet Perspective, where I give my take on all things TV and movie related, and I am here to put you on, okay? So if you guys remember, in the end of episode 1, Louis has just been turned at the church, honey, on the altar of all things. And so now we're kind of seeing what the turn process was for him, right? And so he's going through all of the things. He's going through all of the seeing everything in bright lights. Like if y'all remember Twilight, right? When Bella first became a vampire, that's what it's giving at a certain part in the beginning of episode 2. Louis is seeing everything with new eyes. Everything is illuminated. But first, we see him literally going through an unaliving process of himself, right? He says he's in the worst pain ever. He's in agony because he's literally losing his humanity and turning over to a vampire. He's ravished, he's hungry. And so after things start to settle down, he's now kind of got to sit with this idea that he's immortal. And so immediately Lestat is like, I got to teach you how to hunt. All right. Because it's not that we just go out here and unalive people indiscriminately. There's a way to do this. There's a way to finesse it. Right. And so he takes him to a bar. And we see the military guys, and one is just going ballistic. And Lestat is like, oh, you want the prettiest girl at the ball. And he's like, nope, that's not the way we do things. You want your prey to come to you. You don't want to seek after it. See, you're going after him, the brightest star in here, the one who's the loudest and got the biggest crowd. And he's like, and there he's going to be noticed if he's missing. But this guy, the tractor salesman, no one's going to miss him. And I just want to say right here, tractor salesman, you ain't got the good sense the Lord gave you, because why in a million years would you go home with these men unless you had some other type of motives? Talking about you was just trying to make a deal. We could have made a deal at the bar. Wasn't no way I needed to go to y'all's townhome. Okay? There was no need for that. And so basically he's like, he gets the tractor salesman back and immediately is on and popping because Louis is like a kid. He can't control his desires, right? And so he's on him, and Lestat is, like a proud papa watching him feed and like, no, not like that. Do it like this. Don't bite the bud. You know what I mean? You have to draw from him and all this stuff, right? And so eventually, though, we see Louis' progression, the Louis that we know present day, right? Who is like, I have an issue with feeding on people, a moral issue, right? Lestat ain't even tried to teach Louis, honey, about survival, because Louis, the night after he gets turned, decides that he's going to go home in the daylight and darn near pour milk all over himself. And I'm still wondering what they did with the man that actually witnessed Louis go through this. And so when that's all said and done, Louis is like, I want to get back to business now. It's time to get back to business. I said I was going to manage this new pleasure house, sporting house, whatever they call it, and get my 15%, right? And so he's doing a great job, apparently, doing all the things. The man he's in business with was super happy. But why did the man call Louis an exceptional Negro? All right, that did it. That did it for him. Louis took that man out so quick. Lestat's pissy because why are you just taking him out? You can't do that. People are going to be missing him. We can't do that. And just to rewind, I know a lot of people talked in season 2 about the tractor salesman, Lestat, and Louis, that whole interaction. And the way Lestat was staring at that tractor salesman, the tractor salesman was scared. Okay, he was. And basically Lestat goes in his mind at that point and says, you're scaring him. Now, that didn't necessarily mean that he could read Louis' mind in that moment. That just meant that he could read the tractor salesman's mind, right? He could still speak to Louis in the mind and still call to him, right? But I think the invasion of the thoughts and them communicating telepathically might be two separate things. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And so again, back to the man he took out because he called him an exceptional Negro. Louis about his paper now and about his business, but Lestat says, you know, you're being sloppy, you're being messy. And then we see the racism dynamic in, you know, New Orleans at the time. Okay. And so Louis, because he's now imbued with all of this power, I think feels as though he should be above the current circumstance, which he should, just as a human with or without power, right? There shouldn't have been that shifting dynamic. But they talk about anywhere they would go on the other side of town, he would still have to pretend to be Lestat's valet, right? Because that was the time period. And I think that was the frustration that boiled up when that man called him an exceptional Negro, honey, because after that, it was over. It was over. They go to the opera because we know that that is Lestat's favorite pastime. And the perfect soprano is in town doing this Italian opera. Child, but while the tenor get up there, sharp and flat at the same time. And Lestat could not bear him messing up this opera, honey. They bring him back. Lestat trying to teach him the notes before he take him out. See if he can get it. I guess maybe that was a shot at redemption. But the poor man, he couldn't do it. Louis felt bad for him, but couldn't stop Lestat. Lestat said this is his fun time, okay? He said, you do it however you do it, but embrace being a vampire. I'm going to do it how I do it. Eventually, Louis and him take different sides of the neck and drain the flat, sharp man. Y'all, just a mess. Fledgling versus slave. Constantly throughout this episode, we hear Lestat talk to Louis, you know, about that. You're my fledgling, basically. And Louis is starting to take it like, oh, you feel like you're my master. Like you feel like I'm your slave. Okay. And that's kind of the extent I guess we get as far as the controlling nature of their relationship, what this dynamic looks like. Does Lestat really believe himself to be master? We also have a moment in this episode where Louis wants Lestat to incinerate him. He's like, I don't want to be this. I'm not good enough. I'm not this. I'm not that. And Lestat talks about, you know, his poor qualities and traits, but then he says, but you're also the most loving, the most kind, the most compassionate. And we really, in this episode, see Lestat's heart in terms of loneliness, right? Because they get into this conversation about, you know, having a vampiric existence is super lonely. And that loneliness you can't even begin to comprehend. And that's why you can never leave me, Louis. Right? You're my perfect companion. I want you for the rest of my life. If you're not here, I don't know what I'll do. And I'm like, that's a warning and a red flag. Like, you know, some people might see that as romantic, but it was a little bit scary, especially knowing what we know present day. But he laid it all out there on the table, what his expectations of Louis were. Louis has some moments where he actually gets to go back to his family. But it's been a while. Grace is now pregnant with twins, honey. And this is the episode where we think Louis babies, but he didn't, but he can't control himself. And Lestat has a conversation with him about, you'll have to separate yourself from your family. There's no way you're going to be able to have them in your life in a real way without this coming in between. There's no way. So again, you know, Lestat separating from the family. I know the people came back and said he had nothing to do with Paul's unaliving, and that's fine, but he still wanted Louis to himself as his possession. Was it so much? I think Lestat knew how the family would respond to Louis's new nature. Again, Louis could read the thoughts. When he meets with his mom, she's like, oh yeah, I guess men like him. You look, he's getting manicures. That's the vampire manicure 3000, mama. You know what I mean? She noticed it though. And the glasses. He said, listen, my doctor told me I need these glasses. And so we all know what happens as it relates to the family, but seeing it in the works was heartbreaking. We also see Louis's heart in terms of, now that I'm a vampire, I'll never have a son. I'll never have a daughter, which we know is foreshadowing of what's to come, right? So present day, Louis is having the interview with Daniel, of course, because he's reciting all of this information. And why did they feed Daniel a pig's knuckle, a pig foot? I'm like, what? And Daniel just eating all 10 courses of all of these endangered species. I thought it was so weird and so bizarre. The only thing that looked halfway palatable was the dessert. And Louis said, as a vampire eating human food, he makes himself do it once a week, but it tastes like chalk or like paste. I'm like, but why are you feeding Daniel hooves? You know what I'm saying? That was weird. But Louis trying to find his way. He apologized for spazzing out during the last part of the interview, and told Daniel, you know, you're asking the right questions. I don't want this to be a love story about, you know, vampirism. I want it to be a cautionary tale. You know what I mean? So, again, this episode was good. Of course, not my favorite episode of season 1, and we'll get to my favorite eventually, but a solid episode that, again, lays a foundation for the rest of the story. And y'all, like I said, we will be back on our Tuesday lives as soon as things get back in order. And thank you guys for everyone who has gone out and supported Struggle Reviews TV. And she will be back up and running in no time, honey. Natural disasters are not a game out here in these streets. But if you're still here, thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.